Hey everybody, and welcome to another Binary Ninja live stream. I'm a little behind my usual schedule right now, so apologies if we're a little slow to start, but it's good to be here. This new every other week schedule gives us even more things, I think, to talk about. So first up, we're going to do some announcements and just kind of talk about a couple things that have been happening. First, congratulations to Hexrays. They just had a tweet where they talked about their 30-year anniversary. Hexrays and IDA Pro are like 30 years old, which is really, really impressive. Good for them. It's cool to see a lot of competition lately in the market. You've got, Ghidorah and Biter Ninja and Jeb and Hopper and lots of other choices. But, for a long time, like, that was it. The IDA was the only game in town. And I think we all tend to take for granted some of the things that they popularized just because they sort of did it. And now we kind of course, that's how a tool would work. But they really sort of paved the way for a lot of these other ways. So congrats to them on that. Next up is I wanted to remind the plugin authors, like if you have written a plugin, please make sure you're testing the Qt6 branch. So as a reminder on Binary Ninja, just in the last dev, we've had a new test branch you can switch to for Qt6 releases. And that will be like the stable build. So please make sure you test your stuff with it. You have to make changes, but they're relatively straightforward. Mostly all you really have to do, there's a couple of deprecated APIs that are pretty easy to work around. If you look at the snippets plugin, if you look at SigKit, if you look at, I think, debugger now too, there's just a standard you can replace your imports from PySide 2 to PySide 6. That's the biggest and most obvious thing that you have to do or it just breaks. So please test that. We've got some demos on how you can detect it and switch between the two. So please check out that. One of the things that we're trying to do, so you may have seen our second Binary Ninja Basics video was posted, and I think the third one's also coming out soon too. So we're trying to take these, 2 hour long live streams and do some sections specifically for just topical introductions to things in Binary Ninja. One of the things that we want to do with that is make sure we've got really everything kind of easy to use and see. So I'm probably going to turn off chat and face cam and just show the screen and do my voice, so make sure we get those or have any of the screen kind of blocked out because the basics people don't need to see it. So just kind of testing that, but we want to make sure that y'all can still see me when we're just chilling and chatting. Let's go back to the 2.4 release before we get to the basics, because you may have also noticed too on our current GitHub issues, we work really hard the last couple of weeks to keep our open issues under 500. For whatever reason, there's this psychological thing there. So we're really working hard to go find bugs that we can close, duplicates and things we can fix. There are worse motivations to have, I think. And so right now, exactly 500 open. These last couple, and look, it was Glenn and John, two vector people that did that. We should have a rule you have to close a bug before you can open a new one. Actually, John already has a PR in for his, so that might land soon. And that'll be actually a nice one. Yeah, that's one way to get old bugs fixed, right? Just go file a new one. Or it'll mean we're just going to close your new bug faster, JC. So be careful. We might just accidentally close things a little too quickly. But if you take a look at these, you'll notice that adding reflection as a first party theme, that's, like I said, there's already a PR waiting for that. We're going to hopefully do that one quickly. I love it. I've been basically rocking just the reflection theme for the last several weeks. I don't plan to change it. So reflection views, that's my vote for favorite theme next to the dark original. So we definitely want to ship that, so you don't even have to have the theme repo cloned. You could switch to that. Yeah, there's a bunch of other things here, but let's look over. Ooh, and I have also seen a preview of the new UI refactor that's not coming with the 2.4 release. Very, very early. There's still a lot left to do on it, but I think it's going to be super nice. So Rusty's working on that. It'll be a while. Milestones, that's the button I'm looking for. Again, we talked about this a little bit last time as well, that we've kind of split up 2.4, 3.0, and 3.1 here for our milestones, where 2.4 is basically what we've done. I mean, you just look, we've got 70 issues or bugs, enhancements or whatever they are. It's a mix. And we're just about done with that. So the release date on that is about 2 weeks, a little bit less than that. So our goal is we'll do a code freeze earlier, and that's when we do some more in-depth testing, and we really just make sure there's been no regressions and things that we're missing. So any crashes, if you find any or anything like that, that's when we really try to iron all those stuff out. And we're not adding any new features. Those all kind of wait once the last little bit of time goes in. The Qt6 rollout, that's a great question, Piston Miner. At one point, we were thinking for what was going to be 3.0 that we've rolled into 2.4. Okay, no, so it is 3.0, so you have a little bit of time. because we did this split, like I said, originally 3.0 was going to be what we're now doing is 2.4 because we realized that we've already had tons of worthwhile features. Like the 2.4 releases can be really nice, and we would rather have some more testing for the UI refactor that's coming in 3.0. So you got time. Current, well, that's wrong. The due date for 3.0 is definitely not June 1st. We should probably fix that. I think we just didn't have a expected release date yet on it. We wanted to wait and see, make sure we got 2.4 out on time. Before we don't pick the date for the next release until after we've gotten the previous one out. So it's looking like it'll be at least another couple months. So you have some time, but don't put it off too much. In fact, we've been working on getting our official ones done as well. So that's the 2.4. And then actually, yeah, we'll probably cover this next week because 2.4 will be out. And we'll do kind of like a recap of the blog post and all of the changes that have come with the 2.4s. Actually, for the fact that we originally thought it was going to have this 3.0 UI overhaul and we turned it into 2.4 instead, it's got a tremendous number of cool new features. And on that note, let's actually check out. There's two new ones. One that just landed on dev this week, and one that I think I just built the test branch of. So we're going to find out if it runs. That's a great sign. It runs. Okay, so this one is going to be the test branch that has a secret feature. So the secret feature that's coming in this test branch, I don't want to release it. I don't want to talk about it yet. We'll surprise you guys in a second. And then here is our dev build. And so the first one that is out already, one of the 2.4 features that is live, is the new edit function dialog box. And so I do actually have to grab this dev update because it only landed this past week, and so it wouldn't have been on a release a couple of weeks old. Yeah, I'm really happy with like the rate of new features and stuff lately has just been fantastic. Like there's lots of really, really good stuff that are landing. And so 2.4 is going to ship, and then soon after in 3.0 we're going to have like UI overhaul. I'm hoping analysis passes might end up landing in that one. We'll see for sure. That's a major feature, so it may be partially available, or maybe it'll take a little bit longer, but it'd be cool if we have some analysis passes in time for the 3.0 the next month or two. So let's just go to our old standby here, challenge 1, and there is a new right click option called edit function properties. And of course we can use the action system and get it that way too. And you'll notice there's a little scroll bar here too, you see at the bottom. And one nice feature that John added on this, so my mouse has a thumb wheel, right? Like I can actually do a sideways scrolling, but I was like, but it's not really convenient if you have to like click and drag, or how's it like supposed to go side to side? And he's like, no, you can use up and down scroll. So that's kind of a nice little thing. But if you see the scroll bar down there, you can just use your mouse wheel to scroll it. And I think we're planning to have some line wrapping, but just that didn't make the first cut of it. So we've got a couple of tags here. Some more information, and pull up the documentation in a second, and we'll show you like what are all the different types of things it can do. Calling convention, stack adjustment. If this is like color cleanup and there's some extra stack adjustment, you can enter that in here, whether it's a variadic function, and if it is a no return or not. So you can toggle that off, and I think there's an issue right now where if I toggle it off and then I apply it, it adds it, and then I can go back and edit again. But it doesn't currently update that until I click apply. So just one thing to note in the current one, we'll probably end up, I think there's some discussion about changing that. Yeah, JC, that's exactly the thought a couple of people have had of like, well, like, wow, we're editing the function. Couldn't I just be able to like click up here and type and change the prototype as well and name arguments or just change the return type and all this stuff? Yeah, I think that'll probably come too. In fact, I don't know if John's watching the stream or not, but I think he's got a list of like edit function properties 2.0. Like there was things that didn't make the initial release because we wanted to get it on dev and tested before the 2.4 release. But I think there's some other stuff they're going to come on that. Well, the reason that they're vertical like that is because they're tables and you can check and uncheck them. So my pet peeve is I actually would like you to be able to like sort. I want to be able to like sort by what's checked and what's not. And by default, I think it should sort by what's checked to just see the currently cloud registers. And then as you check something else, it would pop to the top of the list. Same for all of the other things you could change. But yeah, like this is super nice. It's a good feature. Oh, okay. So apparently, yeah, John is watching. He's saying that you could originally edit the function signature, but there was some issues with that. So GameMind, that's a good question. Like, should the return type change if you've marked it as no return? Why wouldn't it be void? I mean, because they're separate attributes, I think I kind of like this. because like maybe I've checked it as no return for now, but later I want to change that. Maybe I'm making a no return just to stop analysis, but I actually want the type propagation to still happen. I guess it wouldn't really happen if there's nothing after it. I don't know. Like I feel like this is reasonable to have it this way, but I have to think about that a little bit more. Should no return set that to void? That's an interesting idea. Oh, that is an excellent question too. Yeah, so John, this is perfect. While you've got that list of notes I know you've been working on. So Piston Miner is suggesting that, parameters can come in registers and there's like an at annotation you can use. But if you could change like the parameters to like where they're coming in, well, is that a part of the calling convention rather here too? That's a good question. Like, do you make that a custom calling convention? It's one of the other requests we've had is a custom calling convention. Somebody who said I would like to be able to like just right from here set all this stuff up. Yeah, custom syntax for like calling convention stuff is annoying. It would be nice if the GUI actually had a way of doing that. One thing I will note, by the way, is look how nicely that pops. See the style sheet for this pop-up, like this drop-downs? So that extra like little shadow there, I think that was one of the changes John just made to make that a little bit more crisp. I think it looks pretty good. Yeah, some docs on the syntax. Yeah, I don't know if there is. If there is, it probably belongs in the working with types, but I don't see anything that mentions register. So my guess is it's not here yet. But yeah, I feel like that should be as well too. But yeah, that would actually alleviate the need for the docs a lot, I think, if there was an interactive way to set the arguments and the types. Yeah, I mean, ultimately you want both, right? Like you want to have good documentation for it, but if you've got a really nice UI for it, it's much less important. And you can kind of work back the notation from the UI if you need it from like an API perspective or something. And just putting it in their first place where people know they could even do it. Anyway, it's a great start. We're looking forward to some other updates on it as well, but it's been a nice feature that I think has been a long time about. In fact, let's actually go double check that. I think that one just got closed, I believe. So yeah, let's see. I guess it was only issue 2071. I was expecting that one to be around longer. I wonder if that's been marked as a duplicate. Now it's a relatively new bug, but yeah, that feels like something that people have been asking about for quite a while. So cool. All right, so I've mentioned that I have another secret feature that I haven't told anyone yet. Well, I think Vectorites know. Create Auto Struct is here, and I'm excited to try it out. I have never seen it. I'm going to be trying it blind here. Like I said, I literally just built that test branch, compiled it, and we do have a test application that Xusheng used when he was developing it. So I think if I go to test auto create, so this one is a mock. Oh, no, that's an elf. Okay, so I actually have an elf I've already made. All right, so that's dev. This one here should be our test build. So right here. All right, so let's, yeah, that one had the old layout too. Let's reset the layout. Oh, I forgot. I think I've changed my hotkey for reset layout so that it loads a particular layout. I should shrink that a little bit more and then layouts. Is this dual? Yeah, save new, dual. So I think if let's see, do this and then Control Shift R. No, it's still a bit tall. I don't remember. Oh, normal is the layout name. Okay, so, dual I just overwrote. Oh, wow. All right, so let's save this to save new layout. We're gonna overwrite normal because I like it a little bit lower there. All right, so let's check it out. First, actually, yeah, let's look at the source code. This is a very kind of simple test case. And so this is not, Xusheng told me this is not exhaustive. The actual feature is capable of doing more than these, but this was just a good one to kind of show off. So we've got a basic integer struct, which just has a 1632, 64 bits fields, and then type with pointers. Yeah, we've got a basic integer struct pointer inside. We've got a linked list. And we initialize global integers to a struct of basic integers of those. Got some helpers, and then we've got test integers, test pointers, test linked list, and main. All right, so that's our sample app. Let's try it. And like I said, this is going to be my first time looking at it too. So test integers. I mean, so the traditional way here to do this, if you've got like an allocation, is you could just hit S and it would create a structure, right? And then I could go at each one of these and hit S to create fields, and it would infer the size based on the size of these operations. And so now if I check in the type view, man, I keep meaning to make this change. Make that default. I want to make that default. Always show user first. Sure enough, we've got the structure. Although this is interesting. The compiler apparently put in 1 extra byte. Like, it's packed, but not that packed. I guess. I don't know. Not sure how that works, but it's hard to argue with the offsets. So that's the sort of like the old way, right? I just hit S a couple times and it did that. So let me undo that. And now let's see. I don't even know. So auto struct, like I don't even know what, is this a command palette thing? I should have asked how to actually trigger the function. Hold on, let's actually reopen this because with the undoing it may still have had. Let's do this. Let's go to main, let's test integers, let's create a struct, but now let's go to type view and let's look at that. Oh no, that's cool. It does have all of the offsets automatically for this usage. Yeah, create member at accessed offsets. Okay, so that, I mean, that's it. It just does it. It does its job. I was wondering if it was sort of like automatic like that. Like if you literally create a struct, it is just on its own being like, yeah, I see the uses right here. Fox, when a structure is packed, it means that instead of padding out the widths of the members of it to like whatever like a standard kind of size is, it will let them be shorter than like 32 bits or 64 bits. So packed means you can have a couple of 8-bit members and then a 16-bit member, and instead of taking like, you know, the full width 64 bits of each one. I'm actually bad with C and C++, so somebody else in chat might have a better explanation for that. But that's my understanding, at least, that it basically says you can pack them in closer instead of no pad. Yeah, exactly, just no padding generally. So I don't know what the compiler chooses for the widths. So I mean, you can choose packed or unpacked when you create a structure. Like if I actually hit I is creating type, and if I actually type a struct, you know, make some struct, and I do packed or not, that controls whether or not, like when I pass it through the type parser, whether or not it's going to be packed. If you want more control than that, you can actually use the API, and you can do types.structure. You can create a raw structure. You can add members at whatever offsets you want. So you can do all sorts of stuff just arbitrarily through the API. So you can create the type, and that is documented. I do know in the API docs here that's working with types. And in fact, actually, now that I think about this, working with types needs a documentation update. I think you may have already done that too on this branch. Let's actually check that real quick. I don't know. User documentation. Oh, I know what it doesn't have documentation. Because of the way I did this build, and this is like a development build, it doesn't have the full docs built. So actually can't pull that up from here. Yeah, game mind, exactly. So this right here, in fact, actually, if we go in, this is a good example. So this is right now what I'm on. If I'm on Windows 3, I'm on a dev release. And if I'm on Windows 4, I'm on this test build. The test build has the new auto struct stuff. So if I try the same binary, and I come over here, and I just create a structure there, and then I go to the types view. So it does have just these offsets have cross references, right? So I can see them because there's cross references there. But we can see over here, it's got like a different syntax where it's just kind of annotating them. And I can still see the cross references like I could before. Here, the big difference though, is I can just be like, yes, please make members, right? So right click on that and create members. So that's the new feature that you can, given a structure that's applied, you know, where is the structure applied in the binary? So you've got to go look at all the cross references for where that structure is. So you have to actually tell it like that structure here, or it has to be otherwise auto-discovered. Those references to that structure, that type, could be through type propagation. In fact, I could probably do that because I noticed that there was one of these that had a reference to another one. Yeah, I mean, game mind, like confusing binary tools by doing something compilers don't do is very, very possible. Like, there's lots of good ways you can break analysis tools for sure, whether for obfuscation or for CTF or kind of whatever. Yeah, there's definitely lots of fun tricks you can pull on that front. I mean, that's where I would argue that the two strengths of like IDA and Binja come into play. You know, I mentioned earlier IDA's done a lot for the field. Their big innovation was like this interactivity, right? It's not just like, here's all your analysis, here's your decompilation, and you're done. But like, you could apply types and structures, and you could give it more information, and then the analysis improves and that kind of stuff. So that interactivity is one key to solving weird stuff like that. And then the other key one is in Binja's case is the API, right? We really have focused heavily on making everything a first-class API, so you can build automation, right? So like, the interactivity helped you like teach the tool how to do the analysis. The automation helps you teach the tool once and then let it solve it for all future classes of that kind of obfuscation or that sort of technique. So I think those are the two main approaches how you would kind of go after something like that. I got you, Piston. I don't actually know about setting a default padding. That's a good question for one of the other Vec35 people. That's a good question. Like, how can you, like, what's the default padding for a structure? Maybe that's actually part of the spec and it's based on the architecture bit width or something. I don't actually know. Or maybe it's just compiler chosen. You may actually know better than I do. But like I said, I'm not sure about that. All right, so it worked. Yeah, and it was literally just go the type and create member at access to offsets. I mean, in some ways, that's my favorite feature, one that's just sort of like there and works really, really cleanly. What's interesting though is let's try something. Let's get rid of this binary. Let's reopen it. So we're gonna create a struct by hitting S, hit N of the type, basic integers, call that ints. So can I double click the type? Oh yeah, that was much faster than just switching to the elf view. Just double click the type. That's right, that works too. So that's test integers, test pointers. Same thing, I can hit S, and we're gonna call this pointer struct. And we can see a similar sort of deal. Can I actually, once I've made it, can I do it here? Yeah, it doesn't currently work from here, but I wouldn't think it'd be hard, but we can also now create member at, oh man, look at that. That's clean, very nice. And yeah, so we've got all the fields labeled here. This one, I did not yet make them, right? So it still just has offset accesses. Good question, Piston Miner. Yeah, it gets the size right in this case because it knows malloc. I don't remember what other functions it works with. Does the documentation say? Okay, so it works with calloc, obviously, because this is the example in the documentation I mentioned specifically. Yeah, this one here, but I don't say which it is. Yeah, I mean, I could have also, right? I could have just as easily actually, so again, yeah, let's just do this from scratch again. Let's open this up. For whatever reason, like if I had a different method of knowing that this was a 16-byte structure, I could have gone to my type view, insert a struct and call it dunno, tell it it's 16 bytes, and then set the type here to dunno, it's right, and got the same exact effect. And then I could come over here and yeah, get the same way that way. I think they might be hard-coded currently, but I don't know if you can add more. If you can tell Binary Ninja these are allocators and this is where you get the size from. I don't know. That's yeah, I wanna actually look into update the documentation on that, on the type view and the smart structure stuff. You know, there's a lot of like wrappers, for example, around allocators that you might be able to, like, maybe the size is actually two other parameters added together or something else, or you might want to have a little bit of logic on how you can do that. And I don't currently know how that works. Peter has implemented that. But again, the auto struct stuff works well, whether we do it that way or not. All right, so testing pointers, same thing. Interesting, what is var10? This one is like going away. Return is going into var10, and then is that an offset from this one? Is that just a string? Huh, I don't actually know what that was doing. So I don't know if that's actually a good place for edit function prototype. I would say no. Like a checkbox where you could say this thing returns a struct or something like that. I don't think that's where that belongs. One thing we're trying to be intentional about is to not overload that dialog with a million different things, because I feel like it's really easy to build a super busy UI that way and kind of overload like the user with a million different options and stuff. And so we want to like not, we were joking internally, we had a couple screenshots of like world's worst app for like just crazy number of checkboxes and options. And Peter had a quote, like that applicator was one that was like some copy file thing utility, literally just copied files, but it had like 60 checkboxes on the screen. Yeah, I mean, you can vary stuff like that in an advanced tab, or you can make stuff like, you know, like our settings has lots of options, but it's searchable and there's different tags you can filter on, and they're organized in a category. Like, so you can make some of that stuff better, but it still just it decreases the odds the user actually ever finds important stuff. And so if you can be just smarter about it, I feel like, I don't know, we want to be very intentional before we just add every possible thing you could eventually do, just so it stays kind of clean and straightforward. So you can do the easy things easy, right? And I'm not convinced that like adding something as a custom allocator belongs in a dialog that you would just, anytime you want to edit the properties of a function, but maybe. All right, yeah, so struct2, kind of the same thing. What we got? There's a linked list. We're going to call that one linked list, and we're going to do create member access structures. Boom. One thing to note And I don't think this binary demonstrated it, but one of the things that I think is somewhat unique about this approach is this does global references. So it's not a function analysis. You'll notice I'm not in a function when I say, please find all the accesses to members. I'm on a type, and that type can be referenced in lots of different places. And the cross-reference system has cross-reference to all those and will collate all of them together and give you kind of like the superset. I don't know how it does like conflict resolution if there's different types of stuff. I think Shusheng could probably speak to that more eloquently. But I know that there is some behavior to do that, so it can make decisions about like what types when there's conflicting things. But yeah, so this is the fact that this is sort of like a global cross-reference creation, I think is pretty nice. And so yeah, so anyways, back looking at this binary, does global integers have? We get a pointer 2-1 under test pointers. Let's go back to our linked list. Yeah, so we already made our types here. And actually, yeah, so like it automatically picked up the fact that it is a, that's nice. Is it prev and next probably? I don't know if it was in that order or not, but actually we could probably look at that if there's, oh, where'd it go? Test linked list. Let's look for cross references. So these two, can you select both? No, you can't select both. That'd be kind of nice, actually. You can do that in the strings view. You can select multiple strings. It'll give you the sum cross-references, but you can't do that in type view currently. But yeah, I mean, that's not really actually doing any real linked list operations. So technically at this point, it could be either one. So we'll call it prev and next. That works really well, actually. That up-down. So because the up-down is token-based now when you're navigating, if you were on it and you just hit down, it keeps the cursor, so you can just hit up, down, enter right from a high level L. That's nice. So Piston and GameMind, you are both correct to answer your question, Gilbert. So the array detection that Binary Ninja has right now doesn't automatically detect stack array sizes. That's one of those to-do features yet to be done. We saw a ton of improvements in the arrays of structures that are really, really nice and work really well in the last couple, even weeks, last month or so. But that's one that still remains, and so it will not create an array automatically when it's a stack-based array. So I mean, you could the struct creation would kind of work for that, but if it's a stack array, you're not going to get that. However, the stack view is also, so that one is not going to make 2.4, but it will be coming probably pretty shortly thereafter on 3.0, and that's, in fact, that's actually why I had the debugger view up here earlier, is because we're prototyping and looking at different ways of visualizing the stack. And so you would at least be able to see, okay, well, here's the reference to that. There's this many bytes between these two. It's intended specifically for that kind of situation. You can actually, and actually I prefer the memory layout. So let's resume. Let's go to our breakpoint. So I think I can go to $RSP. Yeah. So this is kind of, we've been thinking about this a little bit. If you step over a couple times here, we'll see as we step in the debugger where it's annotating what the stack looks like and what these variables look like. This is one of the like designs that we've been considering and kind of looking at how we might have things look. The other alternative, or something maybe kind of a hybrid of the two, is actually over here. And that's the actual stack kind of viewer, which just has the offset and the value here. It's a little bit hard to read this particular theme, actually. And I think it annotates like as you step, as the stack changes. Did I lose step over? Let's breakpoint. Let's can resume to that breakpoint. So now we're in main. So yeah, you see, I think registers as they change, or is it just if they're not zero? Yeah, no, that's no, because that was 0. So it is something about them changing. I can double check probably the debugger information. But anyway, so this view or this view, something kind of like it, probably something more like this, but potentially showing structures in line the way that we do in like other parts of the debug viewer, which is really nice. Or another good example is kind of how we do here as well too. Like when we have a structure decomposed onto memory address is how we'll actually pull it out like that. Kind of like this combined view where the stack would potentially show stack structures with the values and the fields and the types, but also just show, a struct with unknown bytes, or with, instead of question marks, it would be like, there's no type, we have no access information, but we know there's 10 bytes here, for example, in the structure. So that's going to be nice too. Like I said, that's actually probably coming relatively early after the 2.4 ships. It might even, I think, be underway. We'll see. Might be kind of underway before 2.4 ships, so as soon as 2.4 is out the door, it'll hit dev. Yeah, good question. And then actually, I don't think we have an ETA on the automatic array detection. I actually don't expect it to be hard. Famous last words. Mostly because I'm not the one who's going to have to do it. Rusty will do that. But he's busy with the UI refactor now, taking a break from like the HLIL decompiler improvements and working on UI stuff. So we'll see when we get back to the array stuff. But so let's go back to our test build. I mean, I think we've kind of plumbed the depths of this a little bit. There might be more things we could do with the detection. And like I said, I do know that it actually will collate them across multiple accesses, which is super nice. Which one actually accessed the global one? That was test pointers. Let me see. Yeah. What did I call it this time? Was it? Don't know. No. Yeah, it was. Oops. There we go. Oh, except it's not a pointer. It's actually a... All right, there we go. So we can pull our global structure. But yeah, I don't know if... So nothing ends up setting this field. And it's just a pointer. Field 8. Steps 2. Yeah, so it is currently just still a void star. So this really should be a dunno star, right? Wasn't what we called it? I feel like I'm navigating weird, and I don't know if I'm doing something wrong. Just hitting escape. Yeah, I mean, it didn't really change anything because it was still just it doesn't do anything with that reference or that code. Yeah, again, no decompiler, no reversing tool is ever going to be perfect, and that's again where stuff like being interactive and having an API and fixing things up after the fact is going to be important. But we should absolutely do all we can to automatically get all this stuff if we can, to make it easier to do it out of the box, even if you sometimes have to go fix it. But well, cool. Yeah, so that's auto structures. It is literally, right click and say, please to make a structure, and it does that for you. Does what it says in the tin. I'm happy with it. That should land early next week onto dev, barring any internal testing problems. And then y'all can give us feedback and see how it works for you and put it through its paces. So very cool. Oh, interesting. So Bill, it should just work. So for example, my native box is the Mac. There you go. So I just switched. I don't know if I have clear recent. I don't think I have anything there. I just don't like to clutter it. So this is on my native Mac. If I actually search for Python interpreter, it should just automatically find this stuff for you. So if it's not, you may have your homebrew in a weird location, but you'll notice I don't have to pre-populate any of these. These are all just part of the normal searches. So you should just be able to brew install Python at whatever specific version you see. I've got 3.7, 3.8, 3.9, and I switch between all of them for testing. So you should be able to do that between all of them. And actually, I guess I could. Let me pop open a shell. And let's go in here and look specifically what we're pointing at. So here's 3.8. Let's do 9. So it's the same one. Frameworks. 3.9, 3.9.5. 3.9.5. Frameworks. Python versions. 3.9. File Python. Yeah, so it is not named .dylib. So nice of them to do that. But it is just a file called Python, and it's in that path. Like I said, though, you shouldn't have to point Ninja at it directly unless you've installed it to some sort of non-standard location. If you did just install it normally and it somehow ended in a place that we don't detect, please let us know, because we have a bunch of search paths that we maintain for all the platforms. We'd like to make that easy. No, SCC is not under active development. Honestly, it's a really cool capability. It has some neat stuff, but we don't really market it at all. I don't think that's why most people buy Binary Ninja, and so there's some question as to the commercial utility of it right now. So it doesn't get a lot of love. If we get a lot of people asking for specific things, maybe we'll do some more with it, or if one of our folks internally gets interested in it. But it's just hard to justify too much time into it when, the main features that people are buying their product for are mostly probably focused elsewhere. But feel free to upvote the SCC stuff. There we go. Cool. Yeah, so I mean, that should do it then. You should be able to point at the similar ones. Is it just opt local then instead of user local? If so, that'd be an easy change. We could probably just duplicate our code with all of the search paths for user local with opt local instead. So yeah, that should be pretty easy to do. Yeah, so we'll see Piston Miner. I know, and like we did have plans and ideas. There's more stuff we'd like to do with it. You know, who knows? Maybe we'll end up doing some CTF challenge or something where we really want to have a SCC capability, and we'll get nerd sniped and go off and implement the feature instead of solving the challenge. I could easily see that happening. So yeah, it'd be a lot of fun. I mean, there's other stuff that we want to do with it too internally. We'd love to be able to use BNIL for the actual compilation that happens. So that'll be fun. There's, by the way, a really cool Twitch stream that just started up. I got a notification I saw on my iPad because I forgot to turn on Do Not Disturb. But on program languages and program analysis type stuff, Genosaur, I forget her full username on Twitch, but she's interviewing Ned Williams and talking about some fuzzing stuff in browsers. So yeah, so like being able to like actually use BNIL integrated and like compile with I don't know. There's all sorts of cool stuff that would be fun to do to re-emit things. So the other way we've talked about doing stuff like that is actually BNIL to LVMIR would be another kind of way to kind of go back around. There's some considerations with the way that we're doing deferred flags and like implicit flag calculation. We'd have to produce explicit flags to emit to something that would then get recompiled back natively, probably. Yeah, maybe we wouldn't. I mean, there might be other ways we could do it too. I don't know. It's something we've talked about, and there's some ideas. Yeah, there's a lot of neat stuff you could do with an LVMR translation.